Hello, hello, good evening. Welcome from a beautiful Durban, South Africa. A little bit chilly today, middle of winter, and for Durban, that's quite unusual. But welcome to Psychic Talk with Priscilla Gendron. And over the last couple of weeks, I've been having the most amazing guests coming on and chatting about who they are and where they're from. And it's no exception. We've got the amazing psychic medium Rick Paul, all the way from the UK, and we welcome him to the show. Welcome, Rick.
Thank you very much for having me on.
It's a pleasure. So, Rick, I'm going to just leave it up to you to just let people know what it is you do, who you are, why you wear these amazing, amazing waistcoats. So I'll leave it to you.
Yeah, hi everybody. Thank you for tuning in. This is one of those sort of types of occasions where it's like when you go to a meeting and you have to do the wall of death speech where who are you, where you're from. Well, 51 years of age, been a psychic medium for the past 6 years. What that involves is working tarot, angel cards, trained hypnotherapist, trained NLP practitioner, mentally health trained. And the whole reason for me wanting to do any of this work is to help people find their true being, remove energy blockages. And where that came from, well, I was a prison officer for 12 years at 2 local prisons where I experienced some pretty difficult times, but it's served to help me realize and help people that are in crisis and recognize certain signs. So it has given me some positives. And to answer the question about where the waistcoats come from, well, that is purely down to one of my guides and mentors who said that if you're going to go out with me on stage, you better look smart. And the thing is about me, I have never been one for being conventional. I don't like the really sort of dull colours. So when I saw these sort of things, I thought, right, there's only going to be one Wally that's going to be daft enough to wear something like this. And here I am. And I've now got 12 or 13 of them. So I just vary the waistcoats depending on what spirit tell me the colour or what the theme is. So all of the colours for me relate to something. When I go out on stage or I go out to do an event or even with private readings, the spirit will come to me beforehand and there will be a reason why that colour is relevant. I just find it amazing. I really do. It's such a pleasure to be able to do this work.
Yes, and I think it also makes you more recognizable as well. So people are more likely to say, oh, okay, I need to go and see the waistcoat guy, man. So it does sit within their memory a lot easier than if they just see somebody that's like everybody else sitting there giving readings.
Well, that was actually part of it as well. One of my first two-day events with what I would consider at that particular stage the biggest thing that I'd done. I walked into a room with 20 odd different readers in there, 15 or 20 readers. And I thought, what is going to mark me out as a newbie? What is going to pull people towards me? I mean, I needn't have worried, to be fair, because I think the thing about working with energy is you attract your tribe. But at that particular time, I didn't realise that. I was kind of like stood in awe of people I'd seen on the TV, people that I'd seen at shows when I'd been there as a visitor. And I didn't rank myself or anything like that. But what I did look at was, how am I going to sort of fit in? So I thought the whole idea at the very beginning was that, well, they might not remember me as a person, but, oh, it's that guy that wears the noisy waistcoats. And 6 years further on down the line, more people recognise the waistcoats than they do me. So I've kind of got, I've kind of got where I want to be with it, but there's still a little bit more work that needs doing on it.
Definitely. But I think it does. It also creates that persona that you want to represent when you are doing the work that you're doing. And it's the impression that you make as a psychic or as a person that does this for a living as a profession. Make an effort to look smart and to dress their best when they're doing their work. and others don't. So it just leads for the way that you present yourself, I suppose.
I mean, the other side of that as well is, if there's anybody out there that's looking to do this sort of thing yourself, it does take a lot of nerve. It does take a lot of strength of character. And if you're not naturally confident, which truthfully I'm not, when I step into this, it just like gives me that confidence. It gives me that energy. And I feel, or I think that Spirit recognised that as a switch, that I step into that uniform, and that's it. That's the call for them to step through, because this is where I always talk about the way that I work. I'm not ego based. I'm not looking for people to sort of worship me or tell me I'm any good or anything like that. I'm looking to do a job. I'm looking to help people. So it's kind of like, for me, it's having that switch that goes on. We're ready to go. It tells my inner being that that's the way that I'm going to work. And it also informs Spirit that I'm stepping into that uniform. And it gives me that courage that when I put this on, that the professionalism, the game face comes on, and that's it. We're on the way. I just seem to have got Priscilla's there just dropped out for the moment, so hopefully she'll come back on. I don't know if we've got the signal there okay. So it's gone to me. Not even my show. It's a good job I'm used to doing these. So thanks guys for coming on, and while she comes back in and does the questions, we'll get in the link there. Yep, we're back on again. No, we've gone again. So as I was saying, the start out with all of my work was the prison service, and I've learned a lot. It's made me a strong character, and I must have been one of the naivest person in the world, because when I left the prison service, that was a tough environment. Not going to lie. I thought that when I came into the spiritual environment and started working with all spiritual people, that it'd all be all love and light, right? And I must have been the naivest person on this planet, because I've encountered some people there that have got issues. You know, you tread on their ground, you read for a client that they've read for, you go to an event that they've been to, and I just find it all hilarious. I really do. So there's sometimes where I've had to bring out that tough side of myself and just go, right, I might be new in this business, but I'm not new to life. I'm 51 years old, and I've dealt with environments tougher than what these people, when they're, you know, their ego's bruised or things like that. So there's times where people have sort of got all defensive and huffy, and, you know, the feathers are ruffled and things like that. And I'm just stood there laughing, because I'm thinking, I've dealt with worse than this before I've had my first cup of tea in the morning. You know, what is... So it's still, with all of this work, it's still an evolution. You know, I truthfully don't think, Priscilla, that I'm ever going to be in a place where I'm going to get up in the morning, do an event or do something live like this and go, I am the completed product, that I am finished, that, you know, I'll go out there and I'll go onto stage and like click into that thing, because it is so variable depending on the energy of the people that come to your events, the whatever that a client might bring when they're having a private reading, whatever circumstances or trauma that they might be going through at the time when they approach it. So I think that flexibility of the mindset and the trust in Spirit is where I'm at. If I get into the stage where, you know, come and look at me, come and notice who I am, then that for me will be a personal signal that it's maybe time to look for another career.
Exactly. You know, and I think that I feel like it's very important in the work that we do, especially as psychics, mediums, and the intensity and maybe even the sensitivity of the stuff that we are helping the clients with. It is so important that we do it with humility, because, you know, you can't have ego in this world. I mean, you know, there are people that do have huge egos, but I think if you're a true believer, a true medium, a true psychic, you do everything that you do with humility.
Well, just on that, Priscilla, one of the things I like telling my little stories. It's one of the things that I'm known for. And for me, what you just said there is about ethics, standards, and your integrity. So when I started with all of this, I immediately felt like it was a gift that was on loan. I still don't think it's mine to own or say, you know, it's for me to dictate the pace of it. And what it comes down to with me is when I left school, I only ever had one dream. I only ever wanted to do one thing, and that was to join the army. That was all I ever focused on. So when I left school, and I think it was probably a couple of months before I left school, you have to go down and do tests to join the army, fitness tests, see what your capabilities are educationally. And on this fitness test, went round and did okay with that, passed all my tests at the level that I needed to be tested on. And then at the end of the day, you're all out on parade, and a sergeant major comes out there and he then weeds out those that have passed and those that are going home. So he comes round, and there are certain people that have not made the grade. They're marched off, and you know they've got decisions to make about the future. And looks at you and he goes, "Right, gentlemen, I'm pleased to tell you that you've all passed. So of course, there's that, you know, that upliftment there that you've passed the test." And he says, "But remember this, you've passed. But what Sergeant Major gives you, Sergeant Major can take away." So that's always been in the back of my mind with Spirit. Okay, they've given me a chance. I've passed certain tests to get into this position. But if I abuse the privilege, or I get to the stage where it's about me and my ego and placating me or anything in that regards, then I believe, rightly or wrongly, that Spirit will take that back. And I will not get the links that I get. I will not get that energy connection that I get with people. So I'm always mindful of that every single day, every single show, anything that I do, I take that on board.
And you know that we are mindful of everything, and especially in everybody's journey. Everybody's journey is different. But we've all psychics have sort of had very different journeys, but there's been similarities within that thread of the journey we've had to get us to where we are today. Because, I mean, 30 years ago, you wouldn't have imagined yourself sitting here on YouTube talking to somebody in South Africa.
No.
And I wouldn't have imagined that either for myself. So we have to take it and we have to evolve it into what it is that we, you know, love to do. So that's important. You know, that's an important journey that we're taking. What do you think is the sort of the fundamental important things for a psychic in today's world? Because everything is changing and evolving.
What, to actually do the psychic work?
Yeah.
100%. The first thing that I'm asked quite a lot about teaching and guiding people. I do not see myself as an influencer or a teacher or anything like that. But I think if you're developing in any way, shape or form, the thing that you need 100% without any quibbling is trust. Trust in the spirit world, God, whatever it is that you know it as. I know my guides and the spirit work that I do is energy. I'm not a religious person. I'm not somebody that's going to preach on about this, that, and the other. But however you perceive it, my belief system is that you need 100% trust in that, because spirit or the universe or God, as I was saying there, have already picked you. Right? They've already decided that you can do that. All you've got to do is raise your vibration and just say, right, yeah, I'll take that mantle. I'll work with that. And despite when this all started for me, being at a very, very low ebb, and just leaving the prison service when all of this started for me, and I didn't know which end of me was upside down or back to front or anything. I had got nothing to cling on to whatsoever, other than the fact that I've got a lovely wife and family that support me no matter what. So when somebody says you've got all of these gifts and things there, and I didn't have a clue. I really didn't. I've sat there in spiritual development and things like that and being embarrassed by myself because I couldn't understand what was going on around me. I knew something was there, but I had no teaching or no guidance or anything like that. So the thing for me now in hindsight is you've got to have trust, because spirit, universe will never put you in a place where you're going to look foolish. They will never put you in a place where you're pushed into doing something against your will. So I always say to every client that I work with that free will, when I've done any work with you, trumps everything that we have in that conversation. So yeah, trust and just the love from the spiritual world, and know that whatever issues come up, that you will be guided in the right way.
Exactly. And it's like once you start going on that journey and on that road, the universe and spirit will guide you, and they won't let you deviate from that road. They'll say, this is it. You've got to do this. Even go into it kicking and screaming, because a lot of people, like, yourself and me, you don't want to believe that this is the journey that you're supposed to take, because of where you've been. I was in the nursing career, I had my life. You were in the prison service, and it was like, wow, now look at us and how far we've come over these years. It's just such an incredible journey.
Yeah, and what I will add to that is it's an incredible privilege as well.
Yes.
I was sat in the back of a spiritualist church one night, and a medium was saying to me about how's it going, because she'd said for a long while that I was going to do something like this, and I was a little bit skeptical, because I think when I started this I would call myself an open-minded skeptic, but she said, you watch, and she said, and think of it this way, that spirit knock on thousands upon thousands of people's doors on a monthly basis. You're in a very privileged position when you get that knock on the door. It's up to you whether you answer it or not. And when I sort of got an insight into what was going on, and at the core of my being is wanting to help people that are struggling. And the reason that I do that is because if I can help somebody avoid some of the stuff that I've been through, and I personally mentally with this, so depression and anxiety and all of the rest of it, and helping sort of realign their energies with them, then for me, even if I just reach one person a day, when you're doing this social media stuff, I'm so delighted. I can talk to an audience of one, I can talk to an audience of 100, but the idea behind it is not self-promotion. It is about helping people understand themselves. So all of my work in my head when I start out is, right, how can I help them improve? How can I help them move forward past any blockages? So I'm on my own again for a second, guys, so forgive me while we sort of jump about with this. But as I was saying there, all of the work that I look at doing is promotional of other people. So I will share out anybody's work that comes to me. I don't argue with people. I don't argue with their way of doing things. I think there's a bit of all sorts in the work that I do. There's spiritual counseling, spiritual guidance. I'm a qualified hypnotherapist now. And one of the biggest changes in my life with my spiritual work was when I did neuro-linguistic programming, which is a psychology-based product, which helps you get an insight into other people's ways of thinking. So you can listen to the way that they talk, the way that they structure things, and then help them feed it back to them and just say, right, is this the best for you? So a lot of the work that I do involves listening to somebody else's storyline. And my thing is always the same, time after time, is when somebody says to me, whatever their backstory is, I say the same 3 words every time after it. And then what? That is the difference between staying in the spot that you've been in and then moving forward. So a lot of the counselling is based on helping people understand what they've been through, look at strategizing of how you can move forward to that and then what. Yes. So some people will worry constantly about what the future might bring in. Some people will be trapped in a trauma layer where they're stuck in thoughts from the past, I bring them in, and I use the analogy of being the gymnast, that if you're doing the splits, you've got energy in one part, energy in the other part, but you're not actually in your now moment. If we can get you in your now moment, we can strategize then of what's going on in your life that you can actually have an effect on. If you can come to the point of realization that some of the things in life, it doesn't matter how long we're breathing, we'll never get an answer to it, then we can put that to one side and let that go. It's not forgetting it, it's not getting over it or getting past it or anything like that. It's coming to a point of acceptance, because the mind is a very, very powerful thing, and it can tell you all sorts of stories, and it can also run the show if you let it. So I sort of step in there, and I'm I always call myself the bald-headed voice of conscience. So I'm your bald-headed Jiminy Cricket that's going to guide you through that step. And this is where the prison officer side of me comes in, that if we've got to go through a difficult journey and we're going through that door into a hostile situation, you've got somebody with experience on your side. So when that client connects with me for whatever time that is, that if we've got to go into battle, I'm the guy to go into battle with, because I've got your back. Yeah. So I'll let you come back in. I'll let you come back in there, because I was just sort of free flowing there a little bit, because you dropped out again, and I'm like, oh.
That's good. It's good. You're on my wavelength.
Got a tea.
It's definitely playing up with us today. It's giving us a run for our money, as they say. But it's so important that you do have to have trust and faith in the person that you're going to, because a lot of people that come to see a psychic are coming at their most vulnerable or their most, painful moments or their most indecisive moments. And so they're needing somebody to sift through all of that and give them nice, clear directions on where they're going, what they need to do, life advice and guidance. And I think that's important. And it's you have to take responsibility for that as well as a psychic, because what you tell them can have a huge effect on their lives.
I'm a kind of fun-loving guy, but that is a responsibility I take seriously. So when I get somebody to sit with me, I will always ask them what their expectation is of that consultation, because how I see it is like being on a conveyor belt. That when you're dealing with a person's emotions, you're being trusted to help work with them. So the idea for me is as they come on that conveyor belt journey with me for however long you sat with me, there are going to be moments where we're going to take a dip, because we're going into those trauma places, we're going into those dark spots, we're going into those trouble places that is realistic in their life, that is affecting them. Once we've gone in there and we've strategized how that we can deal with that and how we can work with it, then we've got to come up. And the way of coming up is to have a bit of humor involved in it, have a bit of a laugh and things like that, but also by maintaining the dignity with it, because it's not laughing at somebody, it's laughing with them to change the vibration. So as we come towards the end of the journey, the aim is, in my mind, and the intent that I put out to the universe is that as long as that person doesn't leave my table or my arena in any less energy than what they came and sat down with, we're on a winner. Because the thing is, if you're not ego-based as well, that one of two things consistently happens when people meet me. Either they'll think I'm the best thing since sliced bread, which I find quite amusing, but that's another story. Or they will argue with me, right? And then they will go away, and this has happened. It's only happened rarely, but they'll come back and they'll go, "You see, you was wrong. Look, see what I've done." And my answer's always the same. But if I've been right, you've made those changes and you've come out and you've done that. If I've been wrong, you've gone out there and you've made those changes just to prove me wrong. And that's the thing. It's a strategy to lift you out that rut. So I read some of the most difficult people, but I said, think about the immovable force meeting the irresistible object, or whatever the saying is, that if you've got somebody that's as strong in mind as you, right, we've got to meet somewhere and there's going to be a clash. But what that's going to do is it's going to slow you down a little bit so that you can have a look about what's going on in your life, and it shows you a bit of perspective. And you go, right, so what you're doing now is that what is best for you going forward? And quite often, because we get lost in doing everything for everybody else, we just keep on that conveyor belt, keep going on and on and on. It's not very often that somebody comes in and just goes, you're not doing the best for yourself there. You know, you're wasting energy on things that you can't possibly solve. So let's have a discussion. Let's have an adult discussion. And the good thing about me is that I'm not judgmental, because I don't know anything about people's lives. I'm privileged to have a snapshot for half an hour or an hour where I can look into it, but I've got no right to sit there in judgment or anything like that. But I'll go, right, so is that really what is best for you? And more often than not, when somebody has something put right in their face, it's like, oh, wow, I've never thought about it like that. So it's good in that sense of being devil's advocate, where you can get that person at the end of the session to go, all I want from you is that you go out there and consider this. Because if we can get you to plant a seed and you nurture it and it grows for you and you benefit from it, happy days. I'm beyond honoured when they come back and it's consistent, where people come back and just go, you've made a real difference to my life. And exactly. I'll never take full credit for it. I truthfully won't. But if I can take a little part of it and just say, thank you, Spirit, you know, thank you, universe, for guiding that person to me. And I've given them the tools, and then they sharpen the tools and go out there. I can't say any more words than that. It just means so much to me.
Exactly. It's so important. So we've been giving some questions. So our first question comes from Tracy, and she says, what grounding and protection do you do daily?
Right. So when I started out with my development, I did a batch of stuff. So many different practices and things like that. So I did a 30-week development course with a medium in Lincoln, which is where I'm from. I did courses with a fairly well-known medium around this area about presentation, card readings and things like that. And at that point, I'd been going to the spiritual church for about 2 years. And we always do the thing there where we would ask to bring in your guides, your inspirers, and also having discipline as well. That's something that some people miss, because in the excitement of doing this work, you often forget that it's going to drain your energy, you know, when you're helping other people. So I have a specific opening up process, and I have a specific closing down process. So every time I do anything with energy, it's opened up to the universe. I ask my guides, my inspirers, my angels to come in and help me work. I will only work for the highest and greatest good at the highest vibration. Anything dark or negative or anything like that, I ask my principal guides to keep that away from me. Anything that comes in during a reading or a consultation with anything like that I feel that is not good for the client, that will be dismissed. It will be got rid of, because I know that that's not true energy, because I've got that, like I said earlier on, that faith and that trust. So when I close down, I go through the reverse process, which basically involves asking for my chakras to be realigned to their normal working speed. I thank my guides, my inspirers, and the angels for coming in there. I ask for everything to be closed off, and then a layer of protection put round them. It depends on how you visualize. I mean, mine's always been about mirrors. So mirrors around your energy, around your aura space, so that anything that comes in at you that is not good deflects off. Exactly. My wolf guide, who I work with quite a lot, I see him as head of security. So I've got the faith that he basically does border patrols, for want of a better word. And when I'm working, nothing gets near me. So I don't even need to think about it.
Same.
The first message that I ever got for myself when I started working was to practice gratitude. So that is part of my grounding and my protection, is right, remembering that I'm in a privileged position. Also, my belief system is that I'm not affected by darkness or negativity, because if I am, I will withdraw, and then I will find out where that source is coming from. I'll isolate it, and then I will not have anything to do with it. So I think a lot of it for me is about belief that there isn't anything dark or negative around me. But you have to have, like I say, it links back in. You've got to have that faith in the system that you surround yourself with. Again, it was a piece of information that I was given, and I don't know how true it is, but it was what I was told during my training, that universal law dictates that if you've got a spirit energy around you, it has to reveal itself and tell you its purpose. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't truthfully know, but that's what I held it accountable to. So if I pick up on an energy and I feel like it's verbalizing with me, I will challenge it. Right. Remember, I only work for the highest and greatest good. So anything that drops below that frequency and by that vibration, you've picked the wrong person. I am not going to deal with it. I will just send it on its way. And the expectation is that my guides, my inspirers, the angels, will remove that from my presence. So I always feel protected.
Yes. And it's so important because, I mean, just we were talking, Tracy added another message on after that. And it was kind of like before we start, and then how do you end the connection? So it was perfect because it just showed you exactly how you were explaining it was exactly what was being shown in a sense. So you answered her second question as well without realizing it.
2 for 1 bargain.
Sorry, Rick is breaking up a little. Can you hear me?
I can still hear you loud and clear. I'm just sat here waiting for the next question or the next lead in for where we're going with this conversation.
And then Leo has made a little question. I don't think that is true. Many hide, but I applaud your sentiments. Protection is so very important.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the thing is, I'm never going to argue with another person's perspective. This is where I think where you can step outside of the ego and say that was just part of my training. And what I stress with all of this is the environment that I came to is such a stretch to what I've got now. That there is a little bit of naivety involved in that. But I'm a big one for believing that if it works for you, then stick with it. If it becomes a problem, then dissect it and take it to pieces. But they say that was the information that I was given at the beginning. So I've run with that because it's worked for me. If it became a problem later on down the line, then I would look for different information. But as I say, I feel safe. I don't work with any darkness. I see it as that I've signed a contract of light and that I won't draw any darkness. And until it changes, because it's only ever happened to me one time where I've physically been touched by spirit, and it was not a nice feeling.
Yeah.
And I was at a private house party, and this person's husband had come through, and he'd been abusive during a life. And I've always had this belief in my mind when I'm working that my guide rattles a chain link fence when there's anything around there that's a little bit, a little bit discomforting or something that's not so good. So I offer the client the opportunity. Now there's a message there. I'm only going to let that energy get so close. Do you want to receive it or do you want to move it on? And she said, I want to move it on. I said, well, it's been very, very resistant. So anyway, this message was like a running commentary going through my head over and over again. And I went, you need to go, but I need to deliver this message. You need to go. Anyway, I then felt like that on my hand, and it was a real strong grip. So I ask spiritually, please remove that energy. And the grip was just like iron on my hand. Then I said out loud, please remove this energy, and it still didn't go. So then I dropped all my spiritual side, and that deep down hidden, not very nice side of me came out and went, right, get off now. Because we're not talking spirit. We're not talking now. We're talking man to man here. Get your hand off me now, because if you care for this lady like you're trying to tell me that you do, you will let go of me, because if you don't, this reading stops. That's it. I'm done. I'm out of here. I'm not putting up with this. And then it just went. It was the strangest sensation, but it's the only one time it's ever happened. But it was like somebody had got hold of my hand and was squeezing. So I perceived that as a threat. And I'm not intimidated by people, and I'm not going to be threatened by spirit or anything like that. So but thankfully, out of the hundreds or so of readings that I've done now, then that was the only like real bad occasion. So I suppose I'm lucky in that way. You know, that one sneaked under the radar a little bit, but hey ho, 1 out of a few hundred, I'll live with that.
Yeah, no, and it's true. I mean, especially when you are new coming into this field of psychic work, it's so important that you protect yourself, because you are a conduit. And I feel like it's so important to really focus on who you are as a person and your strengths. And it's important, like you said, you've got your security guard, and I'm the same. I've got Arrowhawk, who is my bodyguard, and he protects me from anything in spirit form. And so he will vet everybody that comes to me. So even if he feels like I shouldn't connect directly with the person, he'll talk through him. So they'll allow them to be spoken through him, and that's important. And I similarly, like you, I did an event, a big event, and I did that. There was about 60 people, and this one energy came through for the person, and he was completely just, so angry. He had taken his own life. He was angry, frustrated, and he just wanted to fight everybody. And I was like, I was ready myself to get up and fight, and I couldn't understand it. It actually showed me that I had taken on those energies and personas of the person, and I felt like maybe I'd been getting ahead of myself, just opening myself up too much, because it's all new and strange, and you want to learn, and you want to go forward, and you want to be able to do the best version of yourself that you can do as a psychic. And so I did. I had to learn a lot of protection. I had to learn where to draw the line in terms of how spirit connect with you, what you allow them to say to you and connect with you through you. So that's also important. And for you, as you said with the hand, it's a hard thing to try and connect that, because it makes you realize, oh my goodness, what's happening to me, because this is not me. This is not how I normally behave.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking, I suppose, in one respect that, I don't know whether lucky is the right word, but having dealt with violent people and people who don't want to do what you request of them, it just seemed like switching into an old gear. You bring that sternness, that authority about you, and because that's what I knew, that's what I did. I mean, I don't know whether I did the right thing. I don't know whether it was the right strategy. I certainly wouldn't advise anybody else to do that. But for me, that worked, because if you're working through me as that conduit, then there's still that element of me in there. It's okay saying that spirit are using my voice and things like that to bring through the information, but there's still me that's running security in the background. So my natural reaction was to just pause and then deal with it with authority. Because I've just noticed one of the questions on there, and I just want to pick up on that, because talking about when you're working with energy. Now, this is another visualization technique that I came up with when I started with this. I couldn't quite get my head around all of the subtleties of how spirit will work with you. I got very anxious about being good enough and looking at how people did it, previous to me, and whether they were any better than me. So the only way I could get my head around it was, right, okay, so I'm imagining this next scenario going along, that I trust spirit. So spirit aren't going to do anything silly. So when spirit come into me, they've already decided they know who I am and how I deliver. So my idea with connecting with spirit is like having a funnel. the information comes down the funnel to the higher self. The higher self knows you as an entity and feeds the information down that tube in a way that you can deliver comfortably. So for me, for instance, it's no good giving me overcomplicated stuff, over analytical, over big words or anything like that. It's better off showing me pictures, words, songs or senses or things like that. So I had the confidence then that they knew me, but probably at times better than I knew myself. So when I delivered, I imagined signing a contract. So I think most people can imagine what it's like to sign a contract of some sort. That when you go and sign this contract, there'll be terms and conditions on it, right? Well, I've got no terms and conditions other than the fact of just don't put me anywhere where I look daft and I overstretch myself or overreach because I'm trying to be something I'm not. So on my contract was keep it simple, right? And if I don't understand what you're giving me, let me fire it back at you so that you can put it in a way that I can understand. Because at the end of the day, remember, I'm the conduit and I've got to feel comfortable delivering that information across to somebody, and then they will dissect it and take it to pieces and understand it in the way that they did it. So that's okay. So we signed that contract. I'm available whenever, other than when I need to sleep and rest, or I've got to do my everyday life. Have we got an agreement? Spirit signing, I sign in. So for me, it's so simple that when something comes through that's out of the ordinary, we just go back to the contract signing. And I know full well that energy like that particular thing there, that's not our normal. That's not our normal agreement, right? So, like being in a nightclub when you've got somebody playing up, guides, get rid, and that's for me is the end of it. It might be my imagination, but that's how I process large chunks of what I do. Is that I know that if I get out of my depth, I've got certain tools in my toolbox. I've got a strong spiritual team behind me. I've got the training that I had that have dissected. I signed that contract, and I 100% believe, hand on heart, that spirit honour their contract. So the question there about dealing with those darker spirits, well, I don't for long. And as I say, I've now been reading for 6 years. So I would say I would now be into, I don't know, I was trying to work it out this morning, maybe 400 or 500 readings over that 6 years. So to get one out of that where there's been that, and it was a negative experience. It wasn't pleasant. The feelings around it wasn't nice. I count myself pretty lucky with that.
Exactly. And it's important. I mean, I've been reading for a long time, and you do learn through trial and error of where you're comfortable, how comfortable you are with things, and how to work with spirit and to make it the best thing for you. Sticky asked, what would you advise to obtain a stronger connection to spirit and how to get the best out of it?
Right. This is a good question, right? Because just a slight lead away from it, but I'll circle back to it. So I've had a lot of people that have said to me, how would you go about teaching somebody? So a question like that. So it's a good one to start off with. So I'll answer it, but I'll skirt around it a little bit as well. But I'll come full circle and I'll explain why I'm going that way. That when I'm working with spirit, I say you've got to start out with that trust that they've decided they know you and they know how to bring in the information. But to do that, you've got to honour your side of the deal, where you go in and you sit. And the biggest thing that you've got to know before you start out working with spirit is how you're going to receive it. How do you know that you've got a spiritual connection? How do you interpret things? So for me, for instance, I very, very rarely literally see spirit. It's in the mind's eye. It's in the third eye chakra. It's that connection with either the feeling, the sense. With me, it's weird because I get memory links. I get a sense of knowing. I get all of the clairs, which is, I think it's French, is it, for clear? I get all of that, but the actual visualization part of it, I very rarely get it. So it's actually the first step that you need before you get that strong connection with the spirit world is, how do you know that it's coming in for you? So how would you receive that message ideally? So for me, It's a series of thoughts that come into my imagination. I'll hear voices, not in the other side of things, but I will know that that's a spiritual voice. I will have that inner knowing. And so to answer the question fully, how do you get a stronger connection to spirit? It's time. It is practice. It is sitting in, and this is where I do struggle a little bit, because when I was in the prison service, I was diagnosed with PTSD. So it makes it difficult for me at times to sit in darkened rooms and be shut in, if you're in that group setting. So I will do a lot of that work on my own, where I will sit in a room where I feel comfortable and I will sit in my own power. But my energy is quite high frequency. So I'll only be able to manage that in short bursts. So I will ask spirit to come and join me, say 15 or 20 minutes. But the thing is, like the old film tagline, if you book them, they will come. So honor your side of the deal, 15 or 20 minutes, or if you can manage an hour, then good on you, because it's not something that I feel comfortable with. And then trust what's coming in, and you build a relationship like you would do with any partnership whatsoever, and you work on it. And then there will be days where there'll be like a misconnection. You'll probably get something wrong, but the client will always feedback that to you. So I look at it as being part of a triangle. At the top of the triangle is always the client first, right? So strong start to the top of the triangle. As that information then feeds down to me, I am the weaker link, because I've got a perception of what is going on around that person. But the good news is what makes the second third of that triangle is the client themselves. Is spirit themselves. So as spirit come in and join with that client, right, you've got a really strong structure there, because that client knows ultimately what's happened during their life. We all join in and we all join together energetically, and hopefully, and the majority of the time this works, we get that connection. So we will find out what that information is that needs to be passed on. But then that's got to go through the client's filter. It might even need to go back through your own, so that you deliver it in a different way, so that you can approach it from different ways. So the thing is that life and doing each individual reading is giving you feedback all of the time. So it's taking the feedback from not only the good ones, but also the ones where you haven't quite reached the mark, putting that all together and sitting there in your own power and working on that. Ultimately, you will find that the bigger percentage of what you do will be successful, because it's repetition. When you sat with things, you will know instantly how you're working. You will know how you're connecting. Equally, there'll be some, I don't know if you've experienced this yourself, where you sat down and their opening thing out of the mouth has been something that you just go, you picked the wrong person. I'm never going to sit with a client and force a reading through just to earn a couple of quid. I'll sit down there and tell them what I'm capable of on the basis of how many times I've done readings and had the connection with people. But if I feel that I'm not going to make that connection, I'll send them on the way. Say the same with every big show that I do. First thing, before you part with your money, when you've got this reading or thought in your mind or something that you want answered, always walk around. Don't go and sit with the first medium that you see or the first person that you see. Let your energy connect in. So to answer that question directly, time, practice, and being present and in the moment with your guides, your spiritual team, and just keep working at it. And it's like forming a statue, isn't it? We knock little bits off it, and then hopefully the final statue will emerge.
Exactly. I've, from on my side as well, it was about me just practicing. So it was about me doing readings again and again and again and again and again, and connecting with spirit and learning to trust what is coming through me from spirit. Because when you're first starting out in this field, it's very difficult to know what's your own thoughts and what spirit thoughts. And for me, I used to always say, well, being a Gemini was okay because I had the duality already. So one half is psychic and the other one is just good old Priscilla. So I always said I switched to my psychic side. So then I always know exactly where I am. So I put myself into that position where my connection to spirit is just direct. And you have to just trust what the universe is giving you and what spirit is giving you, because they won't ever lead you astray. They'll give you the advice you need to give to others, and they'll help you to make that decision that needs to be made. So that's the most important thing about, connecting to spirit. It's just having the faith and the trust that what you're going to be doing is going to be the right thing for that person at the time, what they need to hear, what spirit needs to give them.
I say I stick with certain staples when I'm working, that I only work for the highest and greatest good, and for for the love of wanting people to progress. So anything that sort of falls below that vibration, I'm not even going to entertain it. You will sit there, and I mean, I think, and I'm not leveling in this at anybody in particular, but there's certain mediums out there that can be a little bit irresponsible. I sat with a young lady once that I said she looked curious, so I never try and pitch or sale or anything like that. I said, "Are you okay?" And she was sort of dithering. She was a little bit reluctant, and I said, "Take a seat." I said, "Forget about the reading. Let's just have a chat and just see whereabouts you're at." I said, because I can sense that there's some sort of anxiety or something going on there. And so she sat down and then told me this tale about a medium that had told her that she will never develop properly because she'd opened herself up at an early age and she was cursed, and she'd got these energies and that around her, and for a ridiculous amount of money she could have them removed and then she could have her life back. And I sat there and I was absolutely astounded, just as an everyday guy. I'm sat there listening to this lass who'd been really, really affected by all of this, and thought that her life was cursed and she was doomed to dealing with whatever storyline this so-called spiritual worker had concocted for her. And I went, right, let me just cut to the quick with that. What a load of absolute crap. I said, yes, exactly. Tell you what, give them my address and tell them to curse me. Right, and tell them that I'm going to, my life is going to go on hold. I said, because I'll face them down. I said, you've not got any entity around you. You're not cursed. You're not fated to live any life that this person's predicted for you, because you must remember that working with good spirit energy is giving you that free will of choice.
Exactly. And I literally had a message from one of my clients today about something just like that she went to see another psychic who told her that she's been cursed, and she's never going to be able to get rid of this curse, and it's going to affect her for the rest of her life. And I, as you say, use the B word with an S afterwards. Yeah. And it's just a load of rubbish, because we all are the masters of our own destiny, in a sense. So Suki wants to know where you see yourself in 19 years' time.
Oh, right, 51. So so that'll make me 70. So if I'm still on the go working spiritually, I truthfully with that, I hope that I'm doing seminars and I'm doing training with people, because as much as I love doing the entertainment side, because I do like showing off, to be honest, I do like being up on stage in that entertainment, but that's kind of like part of the split personality of working with this spiritual life that I've entered into. It is. So I kind of want to be a guide and a mentor, and have the confidence to be the teacher that people keep asking me to be. Because at the moment, truthfully, and this is where I'm honest, the energy that it took to come away from the anxiety and the depression that I've suffered since I was a kid has took a lot out of me. The spiritual world, for 99% of the time, has given me nothing but upliftment. So I'm hoping that by the time I get to that age and with a lot more experience and meeting other people and guidance and things like that, that I will be in a place where I've got a product that is coming out there that is consistent. So inspiring other people to find their best self, but having a sort of a more technical approach to it to say, right, there's this and this process to go down there, rather than feeling like at times I'm sliding in with my bum on fire and I'm winging it. You know, I just want a little. I think with that, I'm looking for a little bit more structure. But at the moment, I'm enjoying the ride rather than saying I'm looking at any particular destination. So if I get to 70 and my head's still intact, I've got a bonus. That's the answer for that one.
What changes in the way we work with spirit can you see?
Oh, what changes in the way we work with spirit? A lot more of this rather than face to face, because I don't want to get into any conspiracy theories or anything political or anything like that, but I see the world's energy changing vastly over these next sort of 10 years. And I think a lot more of it we will make an easier connection. I mean, look at how far we've come. I mean, I'm connecting you from a little place in England called Lincoln. You're in South Africa. And aside from the odd blip with the connection, the world is now narrowing and narrowing and narrowing. And now that you've got this sort of technology where you can influence and pass the energy on to people all over the world, I think that people, when they're in their own comfort zone, so when they're in their own house, and if they're truthfully trusting that the energy will transfer across in the same way, I think that this is going to become more and more prevalent, because I'm tech phobic. I've never really had to embrace technology as such. You know, I was late to having a phone because I never really wanted one. So all of this is learning for me. And even doing all of the YouTube stuff that I've started doing, the Facebook that I've been on, doing lives, coming onto these, has stretched me. So I can well imagine that I'm being stretched for a reason. There's lots of things going on in my mind at the moment that I don't truthfully own. If I'm being perfectly honest with that, there's lots of things going on that I can't truthfully understand. But I honestly believe that it's leading me towards a destination that at the moment I can't quite see. So again, we're back full circle, like right from the beginning, that I've got the faith that it's been given there for a reason. So I just think that spirit workers that are genuine, and I'm not talking about the showmen or show women or things like that are doing it for a sort of financial purpose. I just think that the vibration is going to go that much higher, and you're going to be connecting into superior beings, superior energy levels, and things like that. Right. So I feel that like we're on the point of explosion with it all. It's just going to go. It's going to go mega. I can't find the right words to describe it, but I just think that what was happening, I know what you mean. You know, it's expansion, huge.
Exactly. Because if you look at it 10 years ago to now, how much of this kind of stuff was out there 10 to 15 years ago, you wouldn't have found any of this stuff going on 10 to 15 years ago. It was almost behind closed doors in a sense, or not thought of or spoken about. And people with our gifts and abilities are now working and helping governments and beasts, and, you know, helping to find lost people. And you know, the normal world is connecting with psychics a lot more to help them in everyday life. So I feel like there's been a huge change and a shift in perception of what we do and how we do it.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a personal hope, should I say. I've never liked labels. So you're this, you're that, you're the other. But with all of this, there's so many strings to your bow in the way that you work, and all of the training and the counselling and the guidance that not only have I experienced, but I've also learned as well and gone through all sorts of training courses. I would like to see the term, like readers, for instance, change to spiritual counsellors, because when you're working with energy as people, you're taking on far more than this sort of you're taking on far more responsibility than just somebody sort of sat there in a booth somewhere flicking a card over and making a bit of a production of it. So I would like the labels changing a little bit so that it helps people change the perspective, because there's still quite a few people out there that see this as sort of a backwater ooky thing that we're not entirely sure of. Is it false? Is it people doing research? Right, I don't do any of that. I'm not interested in working in that energy field. I'm not interested in proving spiritual connection. I'm interested purely on helping people through energy blocks so that they can progress forward along the pathway that they've agreed to be on in what I call the blueprint moment. So it's all about them achieving. So I would like to see the labels dropped a little bit and people actually going out there and changing the perspectives of other people. So it's going from something that people are kind of, I don't know, derision, a little bit of laughter, a little bit of lightheartedness, to actually seeing the huge potential with this, where you can use it as something viable and something different from like what everything else offers. You know, I mean, we still have the need for like medical and all of that sort of stuff, but I also think there's partnerships there, and you see now more and more where holistic practices are actually coming into the medicine field, and as people work with energy and the faith and things like that. So I just hope, for me, that there's room for the evolution as well as the traditional.
Yes, definitely. And so our last sort of question is from Istvan. Do you use your psychic abilities when you do NLP therapy?
Right, that's a good question, actually, because that gives me the opportunity to explain my work as a whole. NLP changed my life dramatically. I went there fairly skeptical. The tutor told me that he would challenge me. He put that on put that right on my toes. So I played up to that, and he did push all of my buttons, but I came through all of the stronger for it. I learned as well that there's certain people that you can use your psychic abilities on, and then there's certain people that will respond to it in a way that's not good for them. So one of the struggles that I've had as a spiritual worker is, how do you package it? So I've packaged my work as a soul guidance. So working with your energies at a deeper level. So when I set that package out with somebody, I tell them what tools I'm going to use. So I qualified as a hypnotherapist. I qualified as an NLP practitioner. And then because of my experiences in the prison service and then the training with the mediums that I've had, it's kind of like all in one toolbox. So I will sit there, and it's basically down to the client to explain to me what they need. And then I will work through that, because I don't want to be labeled, and they're my label version again. I don't want to be labeled as any particular thing. I want to use all of the energy that I've got holistically. So it's picking through those bits. But I can't, as a man, I sit there and I listen to people's stories, because part of the skills that I had as a prison officer, what kept me safe, was observation. So I often find that people, when they come to you and they don't feel comfortable, will tell you the story that they think that you want to hear. So then I will sit there and go, okay, and I'll listen. And then I'll go, is that truthfully what you want me to believe? So if I present the alternative version, that's got to have come from somewhere other than just knowledge. So yes, in answer to that question, even though I don't always mean to, my guys are always on duty. You know, they will always bring something in. So sometimes it really is that sort of carrot and stick mentality, where sometimes you'll just like nudge, and then sometimes you'll go in 2-footed and get this thing to open up. So yes, is the ultimate answer to that. I don't always mean to, but yes, I do.
Exactly. And it's just so important that we, and I think even for myself and all the other things that I do, whether I do counseling, whether I do healing, it's automatic that our gift as a psychic and our connection to the divine and to spirit will enable us to have a stronger effect and impact on everything that we do. in every other branch that we step into. Like for you, your NLP, for myself, mine's the healing and my teaching and my courses. You can't but help not to use some of that gift as well, because it allows you to have a better understanding of what you're teaching and what you're imparting to others. So any sort of final bits of wisdom from you, Rick?
Yeah, it's just leading on from that. There'll be people out there that'll be watching this. I know we've got professionals on here now, but if there's people there that are looking at doing this work for themselves, don't get hung up on getting it right. Like, don't get hung up on criticism. Don't get in the place where you're idolizing people and putting them on the pedestal. What I learned very quickly, so as I say, I'm always an honest guy. I came from a place where I couldn't face doing this sort of thing. This would have been my ultimate nightmare, communicating with people face to face, because I didn't believe that I was worthy of it. So I've progressed from that to working with big audiences in 6 years. So there's always that potential to make those changes. Life itself is live, right? And you're getting feedback constantly on everything that you do in life. So take the compliments and the insults that you receive in your life in the same vein, because you're only just round the corner from one or the other. So when I finish off any stage work that I'm going to do, what I do, I say to them, right, think of these last couple of things before I leave you. If you thought I was good, I appreciate that. And I will say thank you, because I always want to do better. If you thought I was rubbish, thank you, because that's feedback. And I always want to do better. And then I leave them with an exercise program, right? And it's nothing to worry about, but it's an exercise program. 1 repetition every single day of your life is to get your hand and turn it like that, right? When you wake up in the morning, just once, that's all you need to do. If you can feel your environment about you, you can sense your partner or the person that you love next to you, you can feel your night clothes, you can feel your duvet, you can feel your covers, then you've got the chance to make changes that you didn't have the chance to do yesterday, right? So no problems. The only problem that you may have is the day that you put your hand up in the air and you've got wooden soil above you. Then you've got real problems. And as you won't be here, then you ain't got any problems. So the idea in life is that we have no problems. So go out there and use your energy to your best ability. Look at it productively. Don't worry about anything till it actually shows itself. And don't take life too seriously. And you'll be all right. Trust me, it's got me this far. 51 years and still fighting.
Right. Oh, Rick, we could chat until the cows come home. Once we get started on all these things, the subject matter just keeps flowing and flowing and flowing. But I want to just thank you so much for jumping on. And even with our terrible connection, we managed to get our message across. And I'm ever grateful for that and for your time and energy that you've given us. If anybody ever wants to get hold of Rick or to have a session with him, they can contact him on mediumrick007@gmail.com. And then I've also put his YouTube channel in the chat link. So if you want to just go and check him out and click and subscribe to his channel as well. I feel like you'd enjoy getting to know him. I've had
well, she dropped out again. It's kind of like being dropped on your live into that. So
completely amazed.
I've got
grateful that I got to know Rick in the UK before I came over here. Used to do surf together with a lady called Zoe. So I'm grateful to have met him then in person. So Rick will be joining us on the 27th of July on our Psychic Zoom. So if you want to join us there, just give us a shout, message me, email me, WhatsApp me, and join us on the 27th. So next week's event, same time, same place, Wednesday, 7 p.m. SAST or 6 p.m. GMT. We're going to be having the amazing love goddess, Benedict Silva. She's French and she lives in London. and she'll be joining us and talking all about who she is and her wonderful gifts. So once again, Rick, thank you very much for joining us.
Been my pleasure. Thank you very much.
All right, and have a good night, everybody. Good night.